Power outage, Buhari summons Nigerian governor, power minister and economic advisor. Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) retains interest rate at 11.5%, says Russia-Ukraine war poses risk to global economic stability. U.S. 10-year Treasury yields climb above 2.29%, plus boosting wheat production in Nigeria in focus. This is Business Express on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Leah Kating Babatunde. A very good morning to you, and we begin the program by informing you that the Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee has voted to retain policy rates and all parameters in what experts see as a safe position in line with prevailing economic fundamentals. The committee's decision also relied heavily on global supply disruptions occasioned by the Russian-Ukrainian war.
It is just reasonable that central bank should step in to support the fiscal, to fill that space, not through grants, but through loans to our smallholder farmers, through loans to our small and medium enterprise businesses, through loans to our households. Based on the foregoing, the committee decided to adopt a hold stance, as it would indicate a precautionary and consistent policy stance with the prevailing economic conditions, particularly as further economic and financial shock are exerted from the ongoing Russian-Ukraine war.
And on that note, we move through the currencies market to see how much the Naira is exchanging for others. The Minister of Power, Abubakar Aliyu, is reassuring Nigerians that the power outages being experienced across the country will soon be a thing of past, as critical steps have been taken towards the restoration of normalcy. He said the President has given him clear directives to dismantle all obstacles towards achieving stable, adequate and affordable power supply.
Invited all the stakeholders. We had a meeting and came up with some solutions, immediate ones, on an emergency basis to see how we can mop around and gather more megawatts and push on the grid. And a couple of other things that we have agreed to do, and we are chasing them now. They have started yielding result. So you can see now that it's evident that something is being done. There is no cause for alarm. We are on top of it, and the President is very concerned, as you can see. He just came back from journey, and I happen to be one of his first guests. So that shows concern of Mr. President to what is happening. We will not relent. We will continue to do all things necessary to ensure that we keep giving Nigerians electricity.
And we still remain with the disruptions. Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, has assured Nigerians of commitment by the monetary and fiscal authorities to address the energy crisis that has adversely taken toll on individuals and the country with consequences. He spoke while addressing questions after the Monetary Policy Committee meeting this Monday in Abuja.
The CBN has always been there to support the power sector. Like you all know, we've disbursed over 1.3 trillion naira in the last 5 years to support both the generators or discos, or to acquire equipment, or to buy meters, or to even improve what is being paid to electricity generating companies so that they can continue to pay for their gas, and then the system can continue to operate. We will be engaging also with the Prime Minister and NBET and NEC to see whatever we can do to support them.
African countries, including Nigeria, are looking for alternatives that will replace Russia and Ukraine as their major suppliers of the produce. These countries include Egypt, Nigeria, Bosnia, Sudan, and South Africa. In this report, Musa Aliu takes a look at efforts of Nigeria on wheat production.
Wheat is one of the oldest cultivated plants in the world and has always been one of the most important staples for many countries. The grain remains the world's most important crop, followed by rice and maize. Global wheat production as at 2021 increased above 800 million tons based on Food and Agriculture Organization research findings. The world's largest producer of wheat is China, followed by India, then Russia. The production of wheat in Africa remains at its lowest and insignificant compared to the demand by the populace. The continent therefore relied on countries such as Russia, Ukraine, and the United States for the supply of the produce to close any gap. The war between Russia and Ukraine in recent time and the subsequent sanctions against Moscow have begun to impact on the global supply of wheat negatively.
Most African countries, depend on the import of cereal, wheat, and corn from Russia and Ukraine. Let's take, for instance, South Africa. South Africa has billions of investments in Russia, as well as the import of wheat, corn, cereal, from Russia.
Before now, 14 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, including Nigeria, launched an aggressive move towards boosting the production of wheat to meet their national demand.
And of course, we're taking the conversation further. The demand and supply business lessons from Ukraine war. Joining me is the President Wheat Farmers Association of Nigeria, Salim Saleh, and he joins us virtually from Kano. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you very much for having me.
Fantastic. How is Kano this morning?
Kano is a little bit hazy and a little bit hot.
Okay. All right. So we move to the business of the day. How is Russia and Ukraine contributing to the global wheat business? Just yesterday, we heard from the central bank governor that 35% of what the world consumes come from those countries. What does that mean?
Really, the Russian-Ukraine conflict has a negative effect on wheat production all over the world, especially in Nigeria, because Nigeria, we used to import about 17% of our local demand consumption from Russia. So definitely it has to affect wheat consumption in this country. But CBN has set aside a very good finance to see how we can revolutionize the wheat production in this country, which we call the brown revolution. Currently now, under my association, we produce about 63,000 hectares of land to produce wheat. And if you can look at the scenario, supposing we are going to have 3 tons per hectare, it means we are going to have about 180,000 metric tons. This is a very giant, improvement from the previous production sector. But we have to address the issue squarely by asking the government of the day to finance more into the subsector. And based on the good improved seed we are having now, definitely by this season that we are going to enter from 2020 to 23, if a giant revolution can be made also to project about from 150,000 to about 300,000 hectares, it is going to supplement, the gap that this conflict is causing into our country.
Okay.
Which, as we know, has now started to become a stable food. So definitely we have to put all the parameters, on decks to have a strategic wheat production plan for the country that will sustain the demand, the production sector, and balance the equilibrium between the demand and supply. And this can be achieved when we have a very sound, strategic policy that can state what we want, where we are, what we are going to do for a short period of about 3, 4, 5 years.
Okay, so do we have the capacity to bridge this gap that this conflict is capable of creating if it does not end?
Yes, definitely we have the capacity because we have all the available resources that is needed to go into the production. We have the land, we have the human resources, the finance is there. If the government can just guarantee the finance and release out the finance, and the will, has to be put in place. That is by saying if the government can state a policy, that cannot be altered for a period of time, definitely will be able to bridge the gap. Our farmers are trained and they will need more training. And all we should do is to migrate from what we are doing currently now, that is subsistence or semi-subsistence farming, to a mechanized farming production. The moment we mechanize the sector, definitely we will increase the yield and increase the productivity. And we can be able to bridge the gap in shorter period of time.
Okay, you're talking mechanizing farming wheat. So, do you have the data stating how many farmers we have presently and what is their capacity if they are enhanced? What will be their capacity?
Yes, this is the challenge we are facing currently now. And this is an exercise that we embarked into to make sure that we have a sound strategic data, both including the biodata of the farmers. But initially, we also the data of the land size, the land coordinates, so that we can project that yes, if we put about 300,000 hectares into production, with a minimum of maybe 150,000 farmers into it, this is what will be the result out of that. Nigeria has all the potential to grow wheat. All we need to do is for the government to be committed in putting the infrastructures in the structures in order, and then support it with the mechanization. Once we have that infrastructural structures put in order, what I mean is by the waterways, the dams, the canals, construction of tube wells all over the identified lands to produce the wheat. Definitely, it will be just a history.
Okay, can I take you on the value chain now of wheat? How many industries rely on you, the farmers of wheat?
If you look at the flour, the conglomeration of the flour millers, we have over 22 flour milling plants in this country. That is the giant ones. And we have the smaller ones that are operating in a local capacity. And if you compare this with the demand of the wheat value chain products, people need the flour, the animals can get the feed from it, and also other pharmaceutical activities can be done out of that. So if you look at the value chain and you look at the companies that are existing, when you compare them with the production output, it is something that you should not write home about. So we have the value chain actors that are ready to offtake the wheat from us. So all we need to do is to produce more to satisfy these value chain additions. And if you come down locally now and look at the palatable number of palatable dishes that farmers are people are consuming on the daily basis compared to what the millers are producing, like indomie, spaghetti, macaroni, and host of others. So if you compare this, that's why I said wheat is trying to become a staple food in this country now. So if you look at the value chain, it will generate employment for many people, in this country, especially the youth and the women, because they are the ones that can add value to whatever has been produced. They are the outcome, products that come from the flour millers, from the wheat. So it has a very long chain of generation whereby the income of the people can be increased, economic activities of the people can be increased, and we will have a chain of activities, and it will reduce redundancy and even this insurgency. The cause of this insurgency mostly in this country is because of lack of job doing. If people are engaged into the farming of wheat, people who are engaged into the value addition of wheat, definitely the country will be safe and will be put secured. So wheat has a lot of value chain that can be, developed stage by stage, so that people can be engage more people into its activity, and then will be definitely be self-sufficient in a few time of years.
Okay, so there is talk about attaining at least 60% of self-sufficiency. How soon do you think we can achieve that?
We can achieve that, as I said, by looking at all the aspect of the wheat production and wheat value chain. As I'm speaking to you now, tomorrow we are going to start a meeting between us, the scientists, the researchers, and the financiers of wheat production in this country to develop a strategic plan that can be made into a policy to run over years. In every activity of production, not even wheat, in every activity of production, we need to have a strategic plan stating stage by stage of development of activities, and that has to be backed by a sound policy. That policy can stabilize all the activities of the production subsector. Without production, there is no processing. Without processing, there is no marketing. So all these chains has to be looked at. Look at the demand of, we know what we are in short in this country. Nigeria is demanding about 5.2 million metric tons of wheat to go into a million. And we know how the number of money that the country is spending, to the detriment of other countries in the world. So we have to sit down, produce a strategy, identify all the areas that are going into the production of wheat, put in all the necessary machineries, and back it with a policy. I am sure you, in the next 1-2 years to come, Nigeria will see significant changes in the wheat production sector because all the potentialities are there.
Okay, I must thank you, Mr. Salim, for joining us all the way from Kano, and of course, say me well to the young wheat farmer at the background there with you. Thank you. Next is our Surviving COVID-19 series as put together by Nneka Oko.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
My name is Umar Obandoma. My kind of business is to make pumps and shoes with Nigerian leather. All this rubber you see is Nigerian rubber. All this some of leather you see here is Nigerian leather. So we buy it from Nigeria here, some from Kano, Aba. That's where we buy our material. If you bring your sample, we do it for you exactly. COVID-19 is something that affects everything. But we know we're making before the COVID-19. When you come or when you come out, you will see work and you will work. People will buy what you did. But when COVID-19 comes, everything is locked. So no income because it's locked. You are doing nothing. So it's locked. Nothing like anything from the government. We don't receive anything from the government. All what you see we are doing here is to at least, for example, like if you do work, you sell, you buy. But government, we know government are trying to help people like us. But this our side, up to now, we never receive anything. We don't see anything. Most of the time, people will come here, I fill this form, We feel it. But up to now, we don't see anything yet. COVID-19 teach me to save, teach me to maintain, because I have seen it through my handwork. Look at the shoe. If it's not maybe not COVID-19 problem, it will not bring this into repair. To go and buy another one. But now people are repairing their old ones, their old shoes, their old pumps. You'll be surprised. People you know, they are buying much of money, use much of money, buy shoes. Now they are bringing the old one and repair. So we thank God for the COVID-19 aside. But you know, COVID-19 teach people know how to maintain their property.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Thank you. The quest for Nigeria to become a major exporter of non-oil commodities is gaining more traction as the Nigerian Export Promotion Council (NEPC) is taking the lead in establishing Nigerian trade houses in African countries. The NEPC is collaborating with the private sector to promote made in Nigeria goods and services in regional and international markets. In a bid to boost the country's trade volumes, the NEPC inaugurated Nigeria's trade house in Cairo, Egypt, which is a major trade hub in the North African region. The executive director of the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, Dr. Ezra Yakusak, explains that the initiative is targeted at increasing Nigeria's foreign exchange earnings, create jobs, and serve as a major source of income for exporters, as well as enhance the visibility of made-in-Nigeria products outside the Nigerian shores to provide opportunity for the host country to have easy access to Nigerian products and invariably reduce the cost of logistics on the Nigerian MSMEs.
With the ever-increasing challenges bedeviling oil production and distribution across the globe, Nigeria needs aggressive marketing to increase productivity and enhance expansion and facilitate growth through the non-oil exports. In addition, the world is gradually moving away from oil as we now have electric cars in the automotive sector, solar power in the energy sector, among others. This is an indication that the revenue from oil will no longer sustain any nation in the nearest future.
It's a negative open for the Nigerian equities market as investors lost 16.56 billion naira, with the all-share index dipping by 0.07% to close the market at 47,251.93 basis points. Market capitalization also went down to 25.466 trillion naira. 213.569 million shares were traded by investors in 4,485 deals valued at 2.67 billion naira. Market breadth closed negative as Guinness led 15 gainers as against 21 losers, topped by RT Briscoe at the end of Monday's session. And hopefully the numbers will turn at the end of today's session. Now we move over to the global market scene with Bosde Abel.
Investors across the globe continue to watch the situation in Ukraine as ongoing peace talks between Moscow and Kyiv failed to make progress. Shares in Asia were mixed in Tuesday's trade as Hong Kong's listed shares of Alibaba were up 8.78%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index climbed 2.04%. The Nikkei 225 in Japan jumped 1.48%. Mainland Chinese stocks were mixed as the Shanghai Composite sat 0.19% higher, while the Shenzhen Composite dipped 0.174%. European stocks are pointing lower on Tuesday as investors continue to monitor the war in Ukraine and economic developments in the United States. UK's FTSE Index is seen opening 2 points lower at 7,442. Germany's DAX 50 points lower. CAC 40 of France is also down 29 points. U.S. stock futures were flat in overnight trading after Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell said the central bank is open to higher rate hikes to combat rising inflation. Shares in Africa are expected to go the green way this Tuesday. South Africa and Namibia indices are already pointing gains and expected to sustain momentum. Boss said Able, Business Express.
Before we end this episode of the program, don't forget you can access all previous episodes on YouTube. We value your feedback. To join us again Wednesday at 3 p.m. for another package. I'm Leah Katim Baba Tunde saying be safe out there.